If your wife is emotionally checked out right now, I actually think that's one of the biggest reasons you may be getting terrible advice. Now, that probably sounds strange because you would think marriage advice is just marriage advice, but it isn't. When your wife is still emotionally engaged, even if she's frustrated, certain things can genuinely help. But once she's emotionally checked out, the rules change. You can have the best intentions in the world, but when you're playing the wrong game, you will lose every single time. So today, I don't want to spend 10 minutes just defining emotional checkout. As important as that is, I've done that in other videos. Today, I want to show you what actually matters once she's emotionally checked out and the priorities you need to start implementing now to turn her connection with you and your relationship around. Right off the bat, I have to tell you something that may go against what other people have told you or something you may already believe yourself. Your wife's emotional checkout doesn't mean that she's changed. That's an easy scapegoat to use, thinking, I can't make her happy because she's just changed. First of all, it is not your job to make her happy, but as soon as you use that as an excuse, you remove any ownership from your controllables. What has really changed is the situation itself. I grew up in a place where there are about 3, maybe 4 really bad snowstorms per year, so I got a pretty good sense at driving through some bad storms. If you've ever experienced driving through a snowstorm, you will really understand this, and if you never have, it's still pretty easy to follow. If you've ever been driving down the freeway and everything seems normal, and then all of a sudden a whiteout just blows in, which is basically just a blizzard out of nowhere and visibility goes very minimal, did you keep driving the exact same speed? Or hypothetically, would you keep driving the same speed? Of course not. You don't say like, well, this speed worked 20 minutes ago when it was clear, so I'm just going to keep doing it. No, the conditions changed, so your driving has to change too. And the cars that speed by you, as I've seen before, you usually pass them down the road when you see them and they've spun off into a ditch. You have to think of your wife's emotional checkout the same way. The conditions have changed in the dynamic, which means your approach has to change as well, because most men are going to sense her pulling away, and you're going to get that first instinct of trying to solve the problem by needing to show her how much you care or really dragging her into serious conversations to try and straighten things out. That is not going to move the needle because those actions are designed for someone who is still emotionally available enough to work things through it. She's no longer looking for more emotional work. So instead of grabbing on tighter to her, which is going to do nothing but push her to the brink, there are 3 priorities that actually matter once your wife has emotionally checked out. The first priority isn't rebuilding attraction. It isn't rebuilding intimacy right away. The first priority is that you have to stop making every interaction feel emotionally expensive to her. Every interaction between the two of you, whether you know it or not, has a price tag attached to it. And the currency those interactions trade in is emotional energy. Some interactions cost very little, others are much more expensive. When she has reached the point of emotional checkout and you keep sending her invoices in the form of, we need to talk, or do you still even love me, or can you please tell me how to fix this, and so on and so forth, she's going to get to a point where there are no more energy bills in her purse. There are none left in the drawer, there's none hidden under the mattress, there is nothing left in terms of her emotional currency. So the priority is to stop sending her emotional invoices and lighten the way she feels around you. She has to start feeling like she doesn't have another emotional job to do every time you guys are having interactions. If she seems quiet, don't immediately assume something is wrong and start digging for answers. Moments like that are where your relationship quietly becomes less and less emotionally expensive. You're removing unnecessary pressure from her to allow her to breathe and heal a bit emotionally. Once you understand this first priority and you start to do a good job in reducing her emotional cost, you want to make sure you stay as far away as possible from making the next common mistake a lot of guys make, even if they are able to lower the emotional cost. Once you stop making interactions emotionally expensive, you have to make sure you stop gauging how well you think it is going based on how she is reacting to you. So priority number 2, stop chasing proof. I know the feeling of figuring out some things that you start to do that you believe will change your wife's opinion on how things are going and kind of dedicating yourself to implementing them in your life. It gives you this kind of renewed feeling of hope, but it can also cause you to start doing the counterintuitive action of looking for proof from her that it may be working. Proof that she's warming up and noticing how different you're being. Or the golden nugget, proof that she actually might be changing her mind. And I get it. Your relationship feels like it's hanging by the tiniest of threads and you really want that blinking green light that tells you you're moving in the right direction. But real change really doesn't work like that. You can't go to the gym Monday and check the mirror Tuesday morning and think, hey, I see another ab showing. No matter how many times I tell myself in the mirror, it hasn't worked yet. So give your wife some credit. She is going to start to notice your behavior patterns if you seem much happier when you have good interactions with her versus seemingly noticeably discouraged after a difficult one. So if you keep riding the roller coaster based on whatever proof you think may or may not be showing, it's going to start absorbing all of your focus and take you down a side road far away from the one that you can actually start making the consistent changes work over time. And that is where the next priority will start to be so important and really determines whether your wife starts experiencing you differently to the point where she has the best chance to start to build that emotional connection with you again. It has everything to do with whether being around you feels peaceful or whether it still feels like work. Priority number 3. Become emotionally safe to be around. When you start to create an environment where she feels emotionally safe to be around and open up to you more, this is the real first piece that can get you on the fast lane to reconnection. It doesn't mean there won't be some speed bumps along the way, but it's such an important piece of the reconciliation puzzle. When you consistently create this environment, it helps her build trust back up where she no longer expects that she has to carry your part of the emotional world anymore. And on top of that, you develop the leadership abilities to validate her emotions in a way that makes her feel safer with you than anybody else in this world. If she not only doesn't feel like she has to kind of manage you anymore, but trusts how you've been showing up as her rock, it's a complete game changer for your marriage and reconnection. Emotional leadership is so important to build that attraction of you and her, but it doesn't mean you have to have all the answers. You don't have to be some perfect bulletproof leader. It sounds scary being the leader, and a lot of guys who I talk to who end up joining my coaching program were just like me, confused to what, being an actual emotional leader really means. If I can really summarize it, it means staying true to your purpose as a man and not asking your wife to carry questions that you should be carrying for yourself. That doesn't mean you never ask for support and you bottle things up. It means your emotional balance isn't consistently depending on her response. This goes such a long way because there are going to be ups and downs in life. Being the leader doesn't mean you can necessarily prevent things from happening, but it's how you respond emotionally as the leader of the family, which makes a huge difference. As you are taking action on these 3 priorities and starting down your transformational path, she probably isn't going to wake up one morning in those first few weeks and tell you how emotionally grounded you are now. And that leads us to the cornerstone that allows for the reconnection to actually happen, and a piece almost every man struggles with if they don't go into the right mindset. Because even when you're doing everything we talked about, there's still one thing that makes people very uneasy: time. Most people believe that time is their enemy, but what if it's actually your friend? If you're someone who likes solving problems, you know that the easily summarized path would kind of be identifying the issue, making a plan, and taking action. Then you expect to see relatively immediate progress. We naturally have this expectation that effort and results are very close together. The reality is, when you're trying to build your relationship after tumultuous times where she's disconnected emotionally, it's going to probably take you a lot longer than you anticipate. And that isn't a bad thing. You need that time to rebuild her confidence that a new version of you isn't temporary. She isn't going to get some magical feeling that appears right away. It's going to be time and repetition of showing up as a new you who is able to be grounded and provide that emotional safety for her. Because she's going to subconsciously be waiting to see if this version actually survives ordinary life, every interaction where you stay consistent with the guy who can be the steady leader is going to build another piece of evidence. Not evidence you're trying to present, but evidence that actually just naturally accumulates. She's going to start trusting the repeated experience she has with you. So that's why I don't want you to think of time as something that you're just simply wading through. Time is revealing. It's going to expose whether your old habits eventually come back or whether this new way of showing up has actually become who you are. Now, before we wrap up this video, I have to talk about one mistake that can actually undo all the progress we have talked about today if you start implementing the priorities we have talked about. The mistake usually happens right when men are thinking they're finally making headway in reconnecting with their wife. Right now, there is a high percentage chance your life is being lived where it feels kind of like every single day will kind of decide the future of your marriage one way or another. If today goes well, it will give you some hope. If it goes poorly, it adds another level of defeatedness to your feelings. This becomes a very exhausting way to live. And more importantly, it's just not true. One day doesn't decide your marriage, much like one workout doesn't determine your health. As you go through this transformation that's needed to be a confident leader, there will be times where corrections are going to have to be made. You're not going to determine everything in one day. Rebuilding a relationship is going to be a process. Don't confuse being imperfect with going backwards, though. Your growth doesn't require perfection, but it does require honesty, ownership, and making sure that any little speed bumps get corrected to get you back on course. Think about 6 months from now if you decide to put the work in and grow. You wake up and take care of your responsibilities, you spend some time with your kids, and you interact with your wife, and maybe talk about planning a weekend getaway. Whatever it is, you feel completely different and in such a good place. You've created a new standard for yourself, which permeates to the rest of your family, and the connection with your wife is better than you could have ever thought. That can absolutely happen for you, but it doesn't happen overnight. And if you're so focused on making every day feel like it holds the entire relationship in its hands, it also cannot happen if you are not committed to putting in the work that is actually needed. And in my experience, it's the work that changes far more than just your marriage. So if you're ready to put in that work, and again, it will become a lot easier than you think once you start taking that action, or at least you're ready to kind of take a peek at that first step to see what it really looks like, I encourage you to go watch my free Relationship Rebuild Masterclass. Because in this video, we've talked about what really matters after emotional checkout. Inside the masterclass, I go much deeper into the best path and how you can actually rebuild emotional safety, trust, respect, and connection with your wife. The link for that free masterclass will be down in the description box and pinned comment below. If you watch the free masterclass and you realize that you see a lot of what I talk about happening with you in your marriage, towards the end of the class, you'll be able to have an opportunity to book a free strategy call to apply to work with me. When we work together, we will take your unique situation and I will guide you through your transformation and help you apply the skill set to your own relationship, which is the fastest way possible to start attracting that reconnection with your wife again. So again, the free masterclass link will be in the description and pinned comment below. Take action and watch it today. And now that you understand what actually matters when she's emotionally checked out, this next video will really break down why she doesn't feel safe with you and how to turn that around. Go watch that one right here.